It was March 15, 1996, at Madison Square Garden during Tupac's All Eyes on Me World Tour. This was Tupac at the absolute peak of his power and popularity, having just released what many considered his masterpiece double album. But beneath the surface of his professional success, his personal life was in complete chaos due to his complicated relationships with two of the most famous women in the world. For months, Tupac had been secretly involved with both Madonna, the queen of pop who represented everything glamorous and mainstream about celebrity culture, and Kidada Jones, Quincy Jones's daughter, who embodied the sophisticated, culturally connected black excellence that Tupac respected and desired. Both relationships were intense, passionate, and completely incompatible with each other. Madonna had been pursuing Tupac aggressively since they met at a Hollywood party 6 months earlier. Their relationship was electric but problematic. She was attracted to his danger and authenticity, while he was fascinated by her power and global influence. But their connection was also deeply troubled by racial dynamics, media scrutiny, and the fundamental incompatibility of their public images. Kidada Jones represented something completely different for Tupac. As the daughter of legendary producer Quincy Jones and a successful model and actress in her own right, she understood both the music industry and the pressures of growing up in the spotlight. Their relationship felt more natural, more culturally authentic, and more aligned with Tupac's vision of himself as a black man building generational wealth and influence. But what made the situation explosive was that both women knew about each other, and both had been pressuring Tupac to make a choice that he had been avoiding for months. The tension had been building toward a confrontation that everyone in Tupac's inner circle knew was inevitable. What nobody expected was that the confrontation would happen in front of 35,000 people at Madison Square Garden. The evening had started normally, with Tupac delivering an electrifying performance that showcased why he was considered hip-hop's most compelling live performer. The crowd was completely engaged, singing along to every word and responding to his energy with the kind of enthusiasm that made concerts feel like religious experiences. Kidada was watching from the VIP section, looking stunning in an elegant black dress that perfectly balanced sophistication with hip-hop style. She had flown to New York specifically to support Tupac and to finally have the conversation about their relationship that had been building for weeks. But what Kidada didn't know was that Madonna was also in New York, having canceled her own European tour dates to confront Tupac about rumors she had heard regarding his relationship with some other woman. Madonna had been hearing whispers for weeks about Tupac being seen with someone else, and she had decided that their relationship needed to be clarified immediately. The collision of these two powerful women's agendas would create the most dramatic public confrontation in entertainment history. Tupac was in the middle of performing All Eyes on Me when Madonna appeared in the wings of the stage. She was wearing a simple white dress that made her look almost ethereal under the stage lights, and her expression showed a mixture of determination, vulnerability, and barely controlled emotion. Security tried to stop her from walking onto the stage, but Madonna's global superstar status and her apparent emotional distress made them hesitate just long enough for her to reach center stage. The crowd's reaction was immediate and explosive. Seeing Madonna appear during a Tupac concert was so unexpected and surreal that many people initially thought it was a planned collaboration. The screaming and cheering reached deafening levels as fans tried to process what they were witnessing. Tupac stopped singing mid-verse, clearly shocked by Madonna's appearance, but trying to maintain his composure in front of the massive audience. "Madonna," he said into his microphone, his voice carrying clearly through the venue. "What are you doing here?" Instead of answering his question, Madonna walked to one of the backup microphones and addressed both Tupac and the audience directly. "I'm here because I need to know where I stand," she said, her voice carrying the kind of vulnerability that her fans rarely heard in her music. "I'm here because I've been hearing rumors about you and another woman, and I need to know if what we have is real or if I'm just another conquest." The crowd fell silent as they realized they were witnessing something intensely personal and potentially destructive unfolding in real time. Tupac looked genuinely conflicted, clearly understanding that anything he said was going to have massive consequences for everyone involved. "Madonna, this isn't the place for this conversation," he said, but his voice lacked conviction because he knew that avoiding the confrontation wasn't going to make it disappear. "Then, when is the place?" Madonna asked, her voice rising with emotion. "When is the time? You've been avoiding my calls for weeks. You've been canceling our plans. You've been treating me like I don't matter while apparently building something real with someone else." The accuracy of her accusations was obvious to everyone watching, and the crowd's energy shifted from excitement to genuine concern as they realized they were witnessing the real-time destruction of a relationship. But what happened next would make the situation infinitely more complicated. Kidada Jones, apparently unable to watch this confrontation without defending her own position, stood up in the VIP section and began making her way toward the stage. Her movement was noticed by camera operators and security personnel, and within moments, her approach was visible on the venue's video screens. The crowd's reaction to seeing Kidda was immediate recognition of what was happening. They understood that they were about to witness a love triangle confrontation between three of the most famous people in the world. When Kidda reached the stage, her presence created a tableau that would become one of the most iconic and devastating images in entertainment history. Tupac standing between Madonna and Kidada, with 35,000 people watching and waiting to see which woman he would choose. "So this is her," Madonna said, looking directly at Kidada with a mixture of anger and grudging respect. "This is the woman you've been choosing over me." Kidda's response showed the kind of dignity and strength that had made her successful in her own right. "I'm not choosing over anyone," Kidda said, her voice carrying clearly through the venue. "I'm not in competition with you, Madonna. I'm in love with someone who apparently doesn't know how to be honest with either of us." The precision of Kidada's statement hit everyone on stage like a physical blow, because it accurately captured the real problem. Tupac's inability to make a choice had created a situation that was unfair to everyone involved. "That's not true," Tupac said. But his voice lacked the confidence that usually characterized his public statements. "I care about both of you. This situation is complicated." "Complicated?" Madonna repeated, her voice carrying incredulity. "Tupac, love isn't complicated. Either you want to be with someone or you don't. Either I matter to you or I'm just entertainment. And either you respect me enough to be honest," Kidda added, "or you're just using both of us for whatever we represent in your life." The two women's alliance in calling out Tupac's behavior was unexpected and powerful, and it left him in a position where he couldn't avoid making the choice he had been postponing for months. The crowd was completely silent now, understanding that they were witnessing something that went beyond entertainment into genuine human drama with real consequences for everyone involved. "You want me to choose?" Tupac asked, his voice now carrying a mixture of frustration and resignation. "You want me to pick between two of the most incredible women I've ever met? You want me to destroy one relationship to save another? We want you to be honest," Madonna said. "We want you to stop treating us like we're options in your life instead of people who deserve respect and commitment." The pressure of the moment, combined with 35,000 people watching, and the realization that avoiding the choice was no longer possible, finally forced Tupac to make the decision that would change everything. "Kidada," he said, turning to face her directly. "I choose you. I choose us. I choose building something real with someone who understands my culture, my values, and my vision for the future." The words hit Madonna like a physical blow. Her face showed genuine pain and humiliation as she processed being rejected in front of the largest audience possible. But Tupac wasn't finished, and what he said next would make the rejection even more devastating. "Madonna, what we had was intense and passionate, but it was never real," he continued, apparently deciding that complete honesty was the only way to handle the situation. "You were attracted to the idea of me, to the danger and the authenticity you thought I represented, but you never understood who I actually am or what I actually need in a partner." The crowd's reaction was a mixture of gasps and murmurs as they realized they were witnessing one of the most brutal public rejections in entertainment history. Madonna stood silent for a moment, processing the humiliation and rejection. When she finally spoke, her words would prove that Tupac had underestimated the consequences of his choice. "You think you know what you need?" she asked, her voice now carrying a cold anger that was more frightening than any emotional outburst could have been. "You think Kidada is going to give you something real? Let me tell you what's real, Tupac." She turned to address the entire crowd, apparently deciding that if she was going to be humiliated publicly, she wasn't going down without revealing some truths of her own. "What's real is that you're not the authentic street poet you pretend to be," Madonna said, her voice carrying clearly to every corner of the venue. "What's real is that you've been using both of us to build an image that has nothing to do with who you actually are." The accusation sent shockwaves through the crowd and clearly hit Tupac harder than the simple rejection would have. "What's real," Madonna continued, "is that you're so insecure about your own identity that you need constant validation from women to feel powerful. What's real is that you just destroyed the best thing that ever happened to your career because you're afraid of being seen with someone who might overshadow you." The brutality of Madonna's counterattack was stunning to witness, and it clearly caught both Tupac and Kidada off guard. But Madonna wasn't finished with her public destruction of Tupac's character. "And Kidada," she said, turning to address the other woman directly, "you think you won something here? You think choosing someone who's been lying to both of us for months makes you the winner? Let me save you some time and heartbreak." She pulled something from her purse, what appeared to be photographs, and held them up for everyone to see. "These are pictures of Tupac, with at least 3 other women over the past month," she said. "So whatever you think you're winning, you're not the only one he's been choosing." The revelation that there were other women beyond just Madonna and Kidda sent the crowd into chaos and left both Kidada and Tupac looking genuinely shocked. Kidada's reaction to learning about the additional women was immediate and devastating. "Is that true?" she asked Tupac, her voice barely audible but picked up clearly by the microphones. Tupac's inability to immediately deny the accusation was answer enough for everyone watching. "Kidada, I can explain," he started, but she cut him off with a gesture that was somehow more final than any words could have been. "No," she said, her voice now carrying a strength that impressed everyone who heard it. "You can't explain, because this isn't about explaining anymore. This is about the fact that you're not capable of the kind of honesty that real relationships require." She turned to address Madonna directly. "Madonna, I'm sorry you've been dealing with this too," she said. "We both deserved better than being manipulated by someone who apparently sees relationships as a game." The alliance between the two women in rejecting Tupac was unexpected and powerful, and it left him standing alone on stage in front of 35,000 people who had just witnessed him being exposed as someone far different from his public persona. But the most devastating moment was still to come. Instead of leaving the stage separately, Madonna and Kidada walked off together, apparently having bonded over their shared experience of being deceived by someone they had both trusted and cared about. Tupac was left alone at center stage, with his microphone still live and 35,000 people waiting to see how he would respond to being completely exposed and rejected by everyone he had claimed to care about. The silence that followed lasted almost a full minute, an eternity in live performance, before Tupac finally found his voice. "I guess y'all just learned something about me that I didn't want you to know," he said, his voice carrying a vulnerability that his fans had never heard before. "I guess y'all just saw that I'm not as real as I pretend to be when it comes to how I treat people I care about." The honesty of his admission was devastating in its own way, because it confirmed everything that Madonna and Kidada had accused him of. The Madison Square Garden confrontation became international news within hours, with video footage of the love triangle destruction playing on entertainment shows around the world. The image of Tupac standing alone on stage after being rejected by both women became one of the most powerful and painful photographs in entertainment history. For Madonna, the public humiliation initially seemed career-damaging, but it ultimately revealed a depth and vulnerability that made her more human and relatable to her fans. However, her relationship with the hip-hop community was permanently damaged by the confrontation. For Kidada, the incident established her as someone with remarkable dignity and strength, but it also ended any possibility of a future with Tupac, and left her dealing with the public scrutiny that came with being involved in such a high-profile drama. For Tupac, the confrontation marked the beginning of a period of intense self-reflection and isolation. The public exposure of his inability to maintain honest relationships haunted him for the remainder of his life and influenced the more introspective and self-critical content of his final recordings. None of the three ever spoke publicly about the details of the Madison Square Garden incident, but the impact on all of their lives was profound and lasting. The night when Tupac was forced to choose between Madonna and Kidada became a cautionary tale about the dangers of trying to maintain multiple relationships and the devastating consequences of dishonesty in love. 28 years later, the Madison Square Garden love triangle confrontation remains one of the most emotionally powerful moments in entertainment history, proving that sometimes being forced to choose reveals that you've already lost everything worth having.